This right here is an all-in-one 21.5-inch touchscreen PC. The cool thing about this, though, it's completely POE powered. So all you need to do is run one cable to this PC and you're done. One Ethernet cable. No power wires or anything like that needed. Just one Ethernet cable ran from your POE injector or POE switch. Of course, you can run that cable up to 328 foot to this PC and you'll be just fine. Now, this is a great scenario to be used in kiosks, workstations, and things like that. We've made this monitor for a few of our different customers. Actually don't have this configuration listed for sale on our website yet. Maybe by the time you're watching this video it is, but it doesn't matter. Really, I can make any type of monitor that you need, and more importantly, you can make any type of monitor that you need with our special Monitor Master monitors. And that's what I'm going to show you what I did in this. I'm going to show you how I made this touchscreen PC with the Monitor Master's touchscreen 21.5-inch monitor. Basically, what you're going to need is a Monitor Master's 21.5-inch touchscreen LCD monitor. You're also going to need the Monitor Master's MM-PS90-BT1 POE splitter. And again, I can make this for you, or you can make it yourself. You'll save a little bit of money by making it yourself. But this video is just kind of to give you an idea of what these Monitor Master monitors can do, and hopefully to spark your creativity to maybe make your own creation. As far as a mini PC goes, you can use any mini PC that you want, but there's a few parameters you need to consider. Number one, it needs to be powered by 12 volt DC. The mini PC has to be 12 volt DC powered. And you also want to be cognitive of the power consumption, because we are using POE and we are limited by the amount of power that you can use. I really like the mini PCs that use the Intel N series. This one is a Intel N150. The reason why I like the Intel N series is they're very low power consumption. It's a chip that's typically used in all-in-one PCs like this and sometimes laptops. It's a great little chip. It's perfect for most computing scenarios, light-duty computing scenarios where you need a workstation or a kiosk or something like that. Perfect for scenarios like that. But I like the Beelink brand because they usually have really good configurations and the price is pretty good on them. I get these from Amazon. But this is the N150, and it has 16 gigabytes of RAM and 512 gigabytes of storage. So, and again, this uses 12 volts. I think I looked at the specs and it uses less than 25 watts, and I have confirmed that with some power tools here. It uses less than 25 watts most of the time. So I like these PCs so much that I have actually built a trim kit that fits the monitor, and I'll show you how it works here in a little bit. But if you want to make this specific configuration that I'm making, this is the BL-kit, Beelink kit. But again, you can use any brand of mini PC as long as you remember those parameters I told you about earlier. So let's get started on, and I'll show you how I made this. First thing you're going to do is go ahead and take the monitor out of the package here, and it comes with an accessory box. You're going to set that to the side for now. All right, you're going to take the cover off, and I like to use the cover during my assembly to prevent it from getting scratched. And I'm going to get the monitor and I'm going to place it face down. Now there are about 10 screws you need to unscrew to get this cover off, and I'm going to go ahead and do that now. And once you get the last screw off, you're just going to take the cover off, and that's what it looks like inside. Now you'll see these 3 DIN rails. I'm going to go ahead and remove them all. So I'm going to remove 2 DIN rails and all the screws and put them to the side because we're not going to use them in this scenario. So probably just trash them or use them for something else for another project. But we are going to keep 1 DIN rail and 2 screws, and we're going to set it to the side to be used later in the assembly. Now if you look on the bottom here, there is an access port opening, a removable access port cover that we're going to go ahead and remove. And this is going to give us access to some of the buttons and ports on the Mini PC. So we're just going to set that to the side, and we're not going to use that anymore either. So you can either discard it or whatever you want to do with it. Now we're going to get the MM-PS90-BT1 POE power splitter for the monitor. It's the POE module, is what I call it, for the monitor. And we're going to get all this stuff out and get it ready for assembly. I'm going to get this green terminal block and push it in. And we're going to get this. And we're going to get this DIN rail clip. And you can put it on either this way or this way, but we're going to put it on this way. And you're going to use the 2 included screws to screw it on. Okay, and we're going to take that DIN rail that we saved, and we're going to snap it into the DIN rail clip. Just like that. Now, as you can see, these are these little screw holes on the monitor, on the back of the monitor, and that is to be used to screw accessories to, such as this POE module, and that's what we're going to do. So I'm going to remove this tape that's holding the HDMI cable and the power wire. I'm going to set it to the side here, and I'm going to put this POE module right here. And it doesn't really matter where you put the POE module. You just got to know what you're working with, how big your components are, and how they are going to fit inside the monitor. But this is a perfect spot for this configuration. And I'm going to take those 2 DIN rail screws that we saved, and I want to screw this down. Now we're going to remove the Mini PC from the box that it comes in. Okay, you see the sticker right here? This is the Mini PC serial number. I'm going to go ahead and remove that sticker, and I'm going to stick it to the back of the monitor just in case we need support from Beelink regarding the Mini PC. Now, sometimes the sticker doesn't come off easy, so I just use a heat gun to heat it up. You can also use a blow dryer. It does the same thing. Just heat it up for a little bit and it'll come right off. And I'm going to get that case, that back case cover that we removed earlier, and I'm going to tape it to, or I'm going to stick it to the back of it. That way we have it handy. Sometimes this sticker doesn't really want to stick well, so I'm just going to tape it back down, just like that. I'll move that back to the side again. And this is all I need right here. I don't need any of the accessories or anything like that. I'll go ahead and keep the user manual. The user manual is really not much, but I'll keep it just in case. I include it with the packages that I send the customers. This is all we need right here for this scenario. We don't need the power adapter. And I'll show you why. Okay, now I'm going to get the BL kit ready here, and I'm going to take out the stuff, and I'll show you the components. This way, if you ever decide to use a different Mini PC, I'll show you what you need. So the things you're going to need if you decide to use your own Mini PC, you're going to need one of these things. It's called a pigtail adapter. Basically, this is a barrel connector that plugs into the back of the Mini PC, and it has bare wire ends on it. And then you'll just need a typical Ethernet patch cable. Now this right here is a trim kit. This is not necessary if you decide to use your own Mini PC. This helps fit this Mini PC more particularly to this monitor, and I'll show you how. So what we're going to do is put this trim kit on the Mini PC. And we're going to take the black screws out of here, and we're going to screw it down like this. And that's what it looks like, and I'll show you how this fits inside the monitor. Just like that. You can slide this over if it gets in the way. And you're just going to line up the holes on the bottom there and use the other 2 silver screws to screw it in. And that's what it looks like. Now, the trim kit is not necessary. It's just something that makes it look a little better and fits to this monitor a little better. But if you decided to use your own mini PC, you could use double-sided tape to fasten it to the monitor, and you can access all the buttons and ports through the front here, through this access port opening. Makes it look a little nice using that trim kit. All right, so this is the HDMI connection that's connected to the trim kit. This mini PC has 2 HDMI connections. So I'm going to connect this to that HDMI connection. And this will give the ability to connect this to a second monitor if you decide to do that. Now it's time to start connecting some wires here. We're going to go ahead and connect this cable, or this little wire. This is the power wire that will power the monitor from the POE module. So we're going to remove this protective sticker here, and we're going to loosen up the terminal blocks here on the POE module because we need to screw these wires into it. Now this POE module has 2 sets of terminal inputs. So basically 2 positives and 2 negatives. And you'll want to make sure you stick the positive wire into the correct terminal. The 2 positives are on the right side if you're facing the ports, and the 2 negatives are on the left side. So I'm going to stick the positive in the very far right side and screw it down. I'm going to give it a tug to make sure it's in there, and it is. And I'm going to stick the negative very far left side, like that. Screw it down. Give it a tug, make sure it's in there, and it is. Okay. Now we need to take the pigtail that I was telling you about earlier, and we need to screw that in to the POE module. And I'm going to stick the positive into the second input from the right, and it is labeled on the POE module, by the way, the positives and negatives. You just can't see it in this video from this point of view. And stick the negative into the last remaining second input to the left. And I'm going to give those a tug, make sure they're in there, and they are. I'm going to get the other end here, and I'm going to plug it in to the mini PC's power input. Just like that. It's coming along. And the cool thing about these Monitor Master monitors, other than what you've already seen, is it has an internal HDMI input, and we're going to connect that to the mini PC. That's going to give us video from the mini PC. You're simply going to connect it to the HDMI connection on the mini PC, just like that. It's starting to come together now. All right. Now we need to get to the Monitor Master's accessory box, and we need to remove a few components from it for this scenario. And that's what I love about these Monitor Master monitors. There's so many different things you can make with them. So many different purpose-built monitors, such as this all-in-one PC. So you're going to need these 2 USB extension cables. We're going to get those and set them to the side. And you're going to need these, actually you're only going to need one of these Ethernet extension cables, these special Ethernet cables. I'll show you what it looks like. Take one out for use, and I'm going to set the other one to the side. We're not going to need it. I'll set this stuff to the side. So I'm going to get this special Ethernet cable, and I'm going to plug it in to this little port right here. That is the POE in port. You'll see if you get this cover, just put it back on, you'll see the left port is the POE in port. That's the one we need to connect it to. So you'll see that it's just a multi-pin input, and you just push it down on there. Push it nice and snug. Make sure not to damage the pins. And that's what it looks like. And then you need to get the other end and look at the POE module, and you'll see a POE in and a POE out. You need to connect it to the POE in. Just like that, I slid the cable underneath these other cables here. Okay. And then you'll need to get your patch cable, your Ethernet patch cable, and connect it to the POE module's POE out. Now, this POE module sends out 802.3 BT POE power. However, this mini PC does not need POE. And some people may be asking, is this going to damage the mini PC? No, it's not. The cool thing about 802.3 active POE power is it'll detect if the device even needs POE at all. If it doesn't, it's not going to send power. So it's just only going to send data. So that's good. So we're going to take it and connect it to the mini PC's Ethernet connection. Cool. All right. So this touchscreen monitor has a touchscreen USB connection right here. We don't want to connect anything to the exterior. We want it to connect interior. We want to connect it to the mini PC into the interior. So what you're going to do here is, this is the extension cable that runs to here. All we're going to do is take this out. There's the touchscreen USB connection. And we're going to connect it to one of these open ports on the mini PC. Just like that. So technically, we are done. We have it fully connected for a functioning mini PC, but if you look back here, there is this unused USB connection, and it would be a shame not to be able to use that. Because once we put the cover on, we won't be able to access it. We'll only be able to access these two in the front. So, but no worries, this is what the USB extension cables are used for. So I told you you'd need two, you only need one for this configuration. So we're gonna go ahead and open this up and take it out of the package. And you have the USB extension cable, and you have two screws. So if you look here, that's what these two holes are for. We're only gonna use one of the holes. So we're just gonna take this and connect it to the top hole here. You can decide to put it at the top or bottom, it doesn't matter. Okay, so we're gonna get this connection right here and simply connect it to that unused USB port so we can use it. All right, so it's all wired up. One thing I forgot to tell you is on this POE module, it has actually many different voltage outputs. If I can focus that here. Has many different voltage output choices. By default, it's set to 12 volt. So if you get it and you're wondering, how do I switch the voltage? Well, by default, it's going to be 12 volt, but if you ever did wonder, there's a button right there that you can push, a little pin button, to make it switch to 24 volt output, 5 volt, 9 volt, etc. But you shouldn't have to worry about that because by default, it's 12 volt. But you might, it doesn't hurt to make sure whenever you're installing it. All right, so before we put the cover on, let's just plug this in and test it and make sure it all works. And what you'll need to power this is a POE switch or POE injector that is pushing at least 60 watts from the port. And it needs to be 802.3 BT 60 watt active POE, not passive POE. What I'd really prefer that you do is use 90 watt POE injector. That's the highest that you can use, a 90 watt POE switch from the port or injector. Make sure that's the power that it's pushing from the individual port. And if you don't have one, we have POE switches and injectors that will do 90 watts. We have a good selection of them. And that's what I'm going to use to test this monitor. This is a 90 watt single port injector. We also have multi-port injectors available, but just for testing purposes, I'm going to use a single port injector, and I'll show you how we connect it here. So I'm just going to plug in the AC cable to this injector, and I'm going to plug it in to the Ethernet cable, this little Ethernet test cable, to, what would you think I plug it into? The data or POE out? You guessed right, POE out. Okay, and then I'm going to take the other end and plug it into the monitor. Come back over here, and we're going to plug it in to the PoE in port. This port right here is inactive. It does nothing. So we got power for the monitor. That's good news. No power for the PC though. Not to fret. We just got to push the power button. We got a blue light. That's good news. Now we're just going to flip it over. Make sure it comes on. Nice. We got a boot screen. And I'm going to let it boot up and make sure the touch function works. All right, it's booted up to the quick start sequence, and the only thing I'm going to test here is make sure the touch function works. So let's see if it does. And it does. So there's one last thing I'm going to test on this. Actually, a couple more things I'm going to test before I send this out to the customer. I just like to get an old mouse and make sure that the USB is passing through to this extension cable, and it sure is. I'm getting a light on the mouse. So there's one final thing I like to test before putting the cover on, and that's data pass through. We want to make sure data is passing through the PoE module, but basically we want to make sure data is passing through all the way from your switch or router all the way to the PC. So this connection right here is coming from my network switch. I'm going to plug it in to the injector's data in. And I'm going to go over here and I'm going to flip this up and make sure we are getting a good flashing light. That indicates we are getting data pass through. So we are good to go. We're good to put the cover on. And before I put the cover on, I look at all the cables, because there's a bunch of cables and wires in here, and you can arrange them and use that tape that was holding down the HDMI cable and the power wires to tape these together if you want to, or just arrange them any way you want to make them more clean. It doesn't really matter. The cover is going to be on. But one little added precaution I like to do is I like to go ahead and put the cover on and just put a couple screws in to screw down the cover and make sure everything is still powered on. Make sure no wires got jostled loose or anything like that. And I'm going to look here. PC's still on. I'm going to flip it over, make sure we got we still got a screen. So we're good. We're good to go. We're going to put the rest of the screws on. Okay, get the last screw down here. And what I like to do is they make these rubber Ethernet plugs. I got these off Amazon just to avoid any future confusion from any future user or maybe by your customer. I like to plug this rubber Ethernet plug into this unused Ethernet cable. That way people know not to use it. It's an unused connection. I want to show you a couple features that really make this even more useful as a kiosk or a power or some kind of workstation that you may have. This USB connection is simply dedicated to power output. It's a USB 1 amp. But this power connection, it actually acts as a 12 volt DC output. So when the monitor is PoE powered, this becomes a 12 volt DC output. And whenever you use a 90 watt PoE source, this gives you about 2 amps of 12 volt DC output. So that could be useful for barcode scanners or maybe even some low power printers possibly, or anything else that you can think of. Maybe some scales, weight scales and stuff like that. Pretty cool, but I can see this being very useful for many different scenarios. And there we have it. This bad boy is ready to ship out to the customer and be deployed. I hope this video was informative, and I hope it inspires you to make your own creation. If you have any questions, just shoot me an email or give me a call and I'll be happy to help.